Hey yana ho yana, hey yana. 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 The earth is our mother. We must take care of her. The earth is our mother. We must take care of her. The earth is our mother. We must take care of her. The earth is our mother. We must take care of her. Hey yana ho yana, hey yana. 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 Her sacred ground we walk upon, with every step we take. Her sacred ground we walk upon, with every step we take. Her sacred ground we walk upon, with every step we take. Her sacred ground we walk upon, with every step we take. Hey yana ho yana, hey yana. Hey yana ho yana, hey yana. Hey yana ho yana, hey yana. Hey yana ho yana, hey yana.
Thank you, Anton Miserak and Laura Berryhill. Thank you for our opening song, and welcome, everyone, to Center for Spiritual Living Rogue Valley in Medford, Oregon. I'm Kimberly Hawkins, Spiritual Director here, and as always, we're delighted to have you join us for our Sunday celebration. We are an inclusive, progressive spiritual community. We teach spiritual tools to both transform personal lives and help make a world that works for everyone. This morning, we not only have our Sunday crew, who I'll acknowledge by name at the end of the service. Wendy Wellborn is here as our practitioner, who will be doing our opening prayer and reading momentarily. And as I mentioned, Anton Miserak and Laura Berryhill are our wonderful musicians, and we go back to them now for a collective deep breath, preparing us for our invocation.
The hills are clad in purple, and the trees are clad in gold. The autumn winds are sighing of a beauty growing old. The gray grouse in the heather and the wild deer in the glen. I'm dreaming of the springtime when I see the sun again. That merry laughing summer with her mantle cloak of green. That merry laughing summer with her mantle cloak of green. But it was autumn, gentle autumn, with her bonny eyes of gray, and wrapped me in her twilight, and she stole my heart away.
Let's take a collective deep breath together. I invite you to close your eyes and center yourself in your body, and allow and invite that divine part of you within up and into your mind. Let it flood your entire senses. Allow it to take hold of your heart, knowing that everything in our experience is this divine creation, this amazing being that moves in and around and through us, knowing that through this divine being we are connected, no matter where we are on the planet, to everything on the planet. That this is the truth of who we are, our divinity. Outside of our humanity, there is nothing but this divine. We are united with it. I myself am united, and that makes me united with you. I am connected to all of you, wherever you are. Knowing the divine being that populates us is unconditional love and harmony and peace. That we are all surrounded in that blanket of love. That everything moves forward as the divine inspires us to move forward. It speaks in our ear, it speaks to our heart. And our lives are blessed, just as this service is blessed, just as each day is a blessing. I bless all of you that you will know this throughout this week. And I bless this service that it touches your heart exactly where it needs to be touched. And I say this in great gratitude, and so it is. It has been, having a little bit of technical difficulties here. It has been a long time since I've been around any of you, and my heart is very full. As some of you may know, I am in seminary to get a Master's of Divinity. And what surprised me about my experience there is how much time I have for contemplation, because I really didn't think I would have any time whatsoever. So today, with that in mind, I found a reading from Mark Nepo from his book, Things That Joined the Sea and the Sky. And I think we should just contemplate this together. So if you can, and you are willing, close your eyes, and let me tell you the story. From his essay called The Conflict from Assignments. My friend Wayne calls from Australia, where he's living with Kelly, south of Sydney, where the South Pacific funnels towards New Zealand. They found each other and slipped into the eye of the moment. His aperture is wide. I can hear it in his voice. Before Wayne left Santa Fe, our mutual friend Richie insisted that he buy the widest angle lens he could. There wasn't a lot of time, but he did. They're both photographers, Richie and Wayne, and now Wayne is telling me about depth of field. You see, the widest lens lets everything in. It filters out nothing, though it's impossible to keep anything but what's right before you in focus. While he was explaining this to Kelly, she brought him into focus and said, "It's you. It's how you take in the world. You can't help it." Now he's on the phone across the seas saying, "And I thought of you. It's what makes you a poet. I know you can't help it. And I thought of Susan and Robert and Richie. It's what makes all of us poets before we step into the world. None of us can help it. Letting everything in is a precarious gift that keeps us close to what matters. Think of those you admire, who you fall completely into any moment. These people who so love the smell of garlic that they lead you down the alley to the little Italian place you never knew was there. Think of how that evening is now part of your mythology. We so want to fall this completely into our lives. Yet not being able to keep anything but what's in front of you in focus is a problem. There's more. We're on the phone and Wayne keeps talking. I've always followed his talk. I've known him long enough to understand that he's just trying to cough up the inevitable glitter he feels in the back of his throat. It's where all the things that matter that we can't keep in focus go. Wayne is talking now about how great photographers like Ansel Adams extended the exposure of wide lenses. It seems someone along the way discovered, probably by accident, that if you take your time, take a very long exposure, even up to 2 minutes, then everything, from the lash on your lover's eyelid to the snow on the mountains 6 miles behind her, everything comes into focus. Everything becomes clear. Thank you.
She is flowing, flowing and growing. The river, she is flowing down to the sea. The river, she is flowing, flowing and growing. The river, she is flowing down to the sea. Mother, carry me, your child I will always be. Mother, carry me down to the sea. Mother, carry me, your child I will always be. Mother, carry me down to the sea. Ganga ki jaya jaya, Yamuna ki jaya jaya. 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 The river, she is flowing, flowing and growing. The river, she is flowing down to the sea. The river, she is flowing, flowing and growing. The river, she is flowing down to the sea. Mother, carry me, your child I will always be. Mother, carry me down to the sea. Mother, carry me, your child I will always be. Mother, carry me down to the sea. Ganga ki jaya jaya, Yamuna ki jaya jaya. 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 The river, she is flowing, flowing and growing. The river, she is flowing down to the sea. The river, she is flowing, flowing and growing. The river, she is flowing down to the sea. Mother, carry me, your child I will always be. Mother, carry me down to the sea. Mother, carry me, your child I will always be. Mother, carry me down to the sea. Ganga ki jaya jaya, Yamuna ki jaya jaya. 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 Ganga ki jaya jaya, Yamuna ki jaya jaya.
Thank you, Anton and Laura. I also want to say a big thank you to both Reverend Michelle Ariano and Reverend Bonnie Anderson, who filled in for me these last 2 weeks while I was on vacation. Rev Michelle did her usual heartfelt, clear, wonderful talk. I was inspired. And I loved the analogy Reverend Bonnie Anderson used. The signs we see about tsunamis, if there is an earthquake and a possible tsunami, move quickly to higher ground. It's great advice because any time in our life when we experience a rumbling, an upheaval, a storm, we need to move quickly to the higher ground of consciousness. So I loved that metaphor she used. And in a way, I'll be continuing it today. I just returned from 2 weeks in the woods of New Hampshire. And we're talking woods. We're talking a cabin that was 2 miles down a dirt road where no one lived. We couldn't hear a sound. It was silent. It was absolutely beautiful. And I felt I needed the getaway, after the crazy 18 to 19 months we've had with COVID and everything else going on. So Reverend Dr. Linda Rapond and I had a little Friends Ministers retreat. My talk title this morning is Wisdom from the Woods. I love what John Muir said. He said, "And into the forest I go, to lose my mind and find my soul." And I feel like, to a large extent, that is the process that happened for me the last 2 weeks. It wasn't instantaneous. It wasn't as smooth as I thought it would be, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But when you go into the woods and slow down, and you're in silence, and you're able to listen, you tend to notice the little details. So I'm going to be talking about things like clouds and things like mushrooms. I am fascinated right now by mushrooms. I saw a post on Facebook, a friend's Facebook page recently, that said, "Has anybody thought about unplugging the United States and plugging it back in?" And I had to laugh because we are going through such upheaval in this country, not only because of COVID, but the political acrimony and racism raising its ugly head, debate about masks and vaccinations and budgets. And yeah, time to reboot, right? Time to reboot. I think individually we're being called to reboot as a country and as a global community. But this reboot wasn't really by choice, was it? It just kind of got thrust upon us. The good news is, however, we get to choose how we respond and what the world and what our individual lives look like when we're through this, what I'll call, reboot. So into the forest I went, taking with me my mind, hoping to lose it. And when I say taking with me my mind, I mean some agitation and some concern about when is this going to end? Is it going to end? What's it going to look like when COVID is over? Are we going to be able to gather again unmasked and have hugs galore? What will our community look like? What will church look like? What will my work look like? And I'm sure many of you have similar questions. You may not be ministers, but questions about your relationship, your health, your finances, the world at large. There's so much unknown right now. And so I took all of that with me into the woods. Interestingly enough, one of the first nights of the vacation, I had a dream that we were back together meeting in person, which, by the way, may happen within the next month or so. But I was experiencing such joy. And if you know our community, there was lots of food. People had made food and bought food, and we were unmasked and just having a wonderful time. And I woke up and, had to feel that missing again, that idea that I'm missing that connection. So even though I went to escape in my mind what was going on, as John Kabat-Zinn says, wherever you go, there you are. So even though I was expecting to leave my troubles behind, to lose my mind, it took some time to make that adjustment. I was still feeling some of that angst and concerns about what lay ahead. So the wisdom I gained in this beautiful setting, I'm going to show you a few photos. The first one you're about to see is of the pond that this cabin we were staying in overlooked. There was a deck overlooking this pond. Vivian's going to bring up that picture for us in a minute. There it is. And what you notice about that beautiful, beautiful scene is that the reflection is the perfect mirror image of the clouds in the sky. It was so beautiful. The water was still. And when I looked at that, especially when I looked at the photo later, my thought was, as above, so below. As Wendy so beautifully prayed, there is only spirit, there is only God. So really, there is no heaven up there and God and humanity down here. It's all spirit, it's all divine. The other thing that beautiful picture with the clouds reminds me of is as within, so without. So we teach in Science of Mind that it's our consciousness within that creates the outer experiences we have. So it was a great reminder for me because what I realized was I was in resistance about what is right now. I am tired, as I'm sure many of us are, particularly healthcare workers and those affected directly by this virus. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of all the adjustments, the back and forth, and I was resisting what is. And that is not helpful. And we know in Science of Mind what we resist persists. Well, we need to be able to accept what is going on and go to the higher ground like we talked about last week. We need to reach for higher ground and know that God is all there is and that things are unfolding. We are rebooting and we don't know what it's going to look like at the end of the reboot. But what I know is good is coming and emerging and lessons are happening. So during this 2 weeks in the woods, we had the luxury of long meditation times. I mean, at least an hour every morning, journaling. And one of the things that happened to me in the woods is looking out the window in the meditation room where we'd sit in the morning with our coffee, this beautiful woods and the abundance of leaves and wildlife. There was this one chipmunk that kept running up and down the same tree every day, and the birds, and the leaves were just beginning to turn in New England. So the beautiful colors. And I couldn't help but just sit there and think, wow, how could I ever feel lack in my life? Look at this. Look at what the Creator has given us, the beauty. Simultaneously, Dr. Linda Rapand and I started the practice many of you have done. In fact, we did it as a community a couple years ago. John Randolph Price wrote a book called The Abundance Book, and he has a 40-day prosperity plan, which is basically 10 affirmations about abundance. You live with one, meditate on one per day for 10 days, and then you start all over again and do it for 40 days. And they're beautiful. The first one is God is lavish, unfailing abundance, the rich, omnipresent substance of the universe. This all-providing source of infinite prosperity is individualized as me, the reality of me. Powerful words. And of course, when we talk about abundance, we're not talking just money. We're talking about abundance of all good. Wholeness, health, peace of mind, love, loving relationships, harmony, and so much more. And so this practice was part of my time in the woods, and oh, what a gift. So if you haven't done that practice, or even if you have, I recommend, you can Google now. You don't even have to buy the book and find the 10 affirmations, John Randolph Price, Abundance. So I decided I needed to stop resisting. I needed to learn again to practice trust in divine good. And I got to tell you that just having that intention helped me relax and begin to let go of my concerns. Just having the intention. Now, our book of the month this month was also with me in consciousness this week. The book is called All About Love. It is written by Susan L. Taylor, who used to be the editor-in-chief of Essence magazine and wrote a column for 25 years called In the Spirit. All About Love is excerpts of her favorite or readers' favorite essays from that book, All About Love. And so here's a quote from Susan Taylor that I just love and spoke to me this week. She said, "Beneath sorrow and chaos is a divine order and an invitation to stop struggling against ourselves and one another." And I would add, stop struggling against what is right now in our world. Life and our personalities will put obstacles in the way until we come to the way of true seeing that the face of God is in everything. She adds, the only way to peace is being at peace with what is. So I share this not because I've arrived and I'm completely at peace with what is, but this 2 weeks respite, this 2 weeks of listening, this 2 weeks of meditating and being in nature help me really reset, begin that reboot process. And I'm inviting all of us to keep working that, to keep working, seeing God in everything and trusting that everything is working for our good. And letting go of the questions, for me, what church will look like, what my life will look like. And I'm sure a lot of us have many questions because so much is unknown right now. So during this 2 weeks, I also, somewhat reluctantly, took 2 half-days out of my vacation time to attend an online ministers CSL convo. It's a gathering that happens once a year for ministers to feed us and support us in our ministry. And the first morning session I attended, now mind you, we had no internet to speak of and no phone service at the cabin, so we had to drive a couple miles into town and sat at the public library parking lot to get on Zoom. The first morning session in our convo, we were invited to bring with us what we were most afraid of or most concerned about regarding our ministry. And I got to tell you, it wasn't a fun session. I kind of wanted to go escape from my concerns, and here I was being asked to talk about it in a small group. So it wasn't exactly pleasant, but what we know when we're challenged and when we're feeling uncomfortable feelings is that sweeping them under the carpet. I tried to escape, and I still felt angst when I first got on the vacation. So really, the way through our feelings is to feel them and get through them. So even though that first session created just angst for me, the next day we did a very interesting process that built on that sharing of our concerns. Now again, remember, Muir's quote, "I go into the woods to lose my mind and find my soul." Reverend Andriette Earle led a process on Zoom that second day. She reminded us of something Joel Goldsmith wrote. He said, "All the evils in the world are nothing more than pictures in the mind." All the evils in the world, nothing more than pictures in the mind. Again, it reminds me of that reflection in the lake. What we're seeing is nothing more than a reflection of the pictures we collectively have had in our minds. She then invited us to do a little meditation, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But when we went into the silence, she read this from our founder of Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes, who said, "My answer comes quickly and surely back to me from on high." My answer comes quickly and surely back to me from on high. That is called stepping up to higher ground in consciousness, knowing that we're guided. So that second day, we were invited to bring a glass of ice with us. Now, here I am. I went to the local village food co-op that day and asked for a glass of ice at the little counter where they sold food and took it back to my seat and went on the Zoom call. And Reverend Andriette Earle asked us to visualize, if we didn't have a glass of ice, but to think about the ice representative of our concerns and our fears. And so it's a process you could do as well. Take a glass of ice. Take the biggest concern you might want to address, whether it's a concern about family, health, finances, whatever it is, and imagine that ice represents it. Now, think about this. As we're meditating, the ice is melting, right? So it's a great metaphor for this idea that John Randolph Price talks about, that there's unformed substance in the universe everywhere present. It's within me, and it can change form by what we focus on. So we went into this meditation and were asked to listen in silence and submit ourselves to surrender to the divine, to let our current beliefs melt away. And I invite you now, as Anton and Laura play a little music under, to join me in the meditation that we used that morning. It's one of my favorite meditations from the Science of Mind textbook. It's called "I Dip Deeply into My Divine Nature." So imagining your glass of ice, imagining the ice representing some issue that is of concern or scaring you. Holmes begins by saying this meditation is built around the idea that each one of us has within ourselves a deeper nature. this deeper nature being an eternal unity with God or the living Spirit. It is where the being, our being, meets, merges into the being of God. So perhaps closing your eyes and just listening to these words, taking them to heart. As we dip deeply into our divine natures, let us realize that entering the secret presence of the tabernacle of God, we will, like the pilgrims of old, have to shed that which does not belong to the kingdom of God. We have to deliberately drop that which would hurt. We cannot enter the gate of good with a sword in our hands. So we let go of everything and turn to that divine depth within our own nature, wherein the Spirit of God, the Spirit of love, and the Spirit of peace dwells with calm serenity. We withdraw into that place within us which has never been hurt, nor has ever been sick, has always and forever lived in divine and eternal peace. The kingdom of God, which is good. And this inner kingdom within is all peace, all power, and all perfection. We drop all hate, all fear, all animosity, all resentment. We cast out of our consciousness every doubt and every sense of uncertainty. We know that we are entering into that atmosphere of wholeness, of happiness, and completion, where there is no fear, no doubt, no uncertainty, no lack, no want. Here is wholeness, perfection, peace, power, beauty, love, supply, and life. We know that the abundance of this life is showered upon us, that we are guided and guarded into right action, into right decision, daily, hourly, minutely. The principle of intelligence directs us. The presence of love warms us. The peace of God covers us. And we are led into the pathway of this peace, into the knowledge of this perfection. We are conscious of the indwelling God, and we are conscious that the indwelling God is filling, instantly renewing our bodies, absolutely eliminating from us whatever there is that does not belong, coordinating every function, every organ, every action and reaction, the circulation, assimilation, elimination, making it all perfect. The life principle of every part of our being is perfect and whole, harmonious, and now functions perfectly in us. The whole order of discord is changed into the natural order of harmony and wholeness, and we let that divine power be exactly what it is in us. We are no longer afraid, for love casts out fear. Our faith destroys all fear. We awake from the dream of fear to the vision of reality, where there's no shadow of which to be afraid. We awake from the dream of lack and want and unhappiness to the knowledge of harmony, of abundance, and of peace. I allow myself to dip deeply into my divine nature. And so it is. That's how we walk to higher ground, is it not? So before we close, I already talked about the fact of as within, so without, and reminded of that by the reflection of the clouds in the water. The second part of being in that incredible, rich nature environment was seeing mushrooms when I took my walks in the field, and we're going to see some pictures of them. Mushrooms everywhere, in every color, every size, every shape, every design. It was phenomenal. The colors were red and purple, orange, yellow, brown, black. I can't even express green. And the shapes were incredible. Everywhere I looked, and I was fascinated. And of course, I, loving to take pictures, took pictures. And I invite you to look at my Facebook page because there are many more than you're going to see here. But one of the things that I learned from looking at the mushrooms was just about the variety, the diversity of life here. The diversity not only of humans, but of our biodiversity in the woods. It is spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. And I did a little research about mushrooms because I was so fascinated watching them and photographing them. I did a little research when I got back. And I have some things to tell you that I think will be lessons, again, more wisdom from the woods. There are several kinds of mushrooms. Some are parasites and just take nutrients and sometimes kill a tree or whatever. But there are also many mushrooms that are in what's called Wendy? I'm looking for that word where they're in synchronous. I can't think of the word right now, but symbiotic. Thank you, Wendy. Our resident scientist is our practitioner. They have a symbiotic relationship with everything around them, which means it's mutually beneficial. So these mushrooms have tiny filaments under the earth, their root system, called mycelium. And those mycelium actually transfer nutrients to all the other plants around them. They help the other plants around them be richly, 10 to hundreds of times the nutrients and water get delivered to them because of the mushrooms. They share. They reach out through this incredibly intricate root system under the ground and aid all life around them. And yes, they take nutrients from the host plant that they're living on, but they are givers and they take care. They are natural doctors to the plants around them. I guess there is now an extract from mushrooms that help pollinating bees be protected from a virus, but they also heal the plants around them. They are all also natural recyclers. They convert material into new material, make the soil more fertile. There's a lot of talk right now about regenerative agriculture, not just sustainable, but regenerative. Mushrooms are a big part of that. They regenerate the soil and resupply it with all the nutrients needed. They house the carbon dioxide so that it doesn't get into the air. They're amazing. Not only are the edible ones medicinally amazing, there's research being done about mushrooms that help cure cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, high blood pressure, and on and on. They also are able to clean up toxic situations, like an oil spill, for example, because the mycelium secrete an enzyme and then digest things and turn them into non-harmful substances. So we had these devastating forest fires here in Rogue Valley a year ago, and a lot of toxic detritus left over because the things that were incinerated included things like pesticides, herbicides, paint, electronic equipment, all household toxic cleaning products. And mushrooms are able to transmute all that toxicity into something that actually feeds the soil. It is amazing. So there's research being done about how mushrooms might help us save the planet, literally save the planet. So amazing. So I guess the wisdom from the woods I'm taking away once again is, instead of resisting what is, instead of resisting the people that don't agree with me politically, to reach out like the mushrooms, to recognize the divinity in all of life to help each other, to honor the diversity that exists. And most especially, what I'm realizing is how important, or re-realizing how important it is to take care of Mother Earth, to make sure that we preserve this biodiversity, that we put it to use, that we don't destroy it. Mushrooms may contain a lot of the answers to global warming, to water problems. They are amazing, amazing plants. So on the subject of climate change, I have an action to invite you into. This is interesting, synchronistically, that an invitation came this week while I'm processing all this wisdom from the woods. This invitation came from a man named Bob Morse from the Peace Commission in Ashland, who also happens to be a part of the Quaker community in Ashland called South Mountain Friends. And he sent an email to faith leaders all around the Rogue Valley to join in an action that is being sponsored by Green Faith. This is a worldwide multi-faith climate and environmental movement that is organizing community events to support positive outcomes for the upcoming UN Climate Change Conference, which is about to happen later this month in Glasgow, Scotland. So people of diverse faiths are going to gather here in Medford on the lawn of the county courthouse at noon on October 18th. That's a Monday. And the idea is to stand in silence and solidarity with other local faith communities in support of effective climate action now. What a beautiful idea. I will be there. I'm inviting our community to be there. I'm inviting all of you to be there if you can. You can find out more if you like by Googling greenfaith.org/faith for climate justice. 4 is a letter, but greenfaith.org will get you there. And as Bob Morse said, we are gathering together under this banner: compassion for all creation, renewable energy, sustainable life. Wow. So in summing up these wisdom pieces from the woods, I know that I co-create my reality. I need to step up to higher ground so that the reflections I am putting out in my life are beautiful and harmonious, not chaotic and contentious. I know that, like the mushrooms, each of us needs to continue to reach out to help each other, to make sure we have a world that works for everyone, just as mushrooms tend to make a woods that works for everyone. And I'm also aware that as we do this, we need to leave the door to our heart open. I remember a beautiful meditation I practiced this week by Buddhist teacher Jack Kornfield, where he talked about that, leaving the door to our heart open. And I'm going to close with another quote from Susan Taylor from her book, All About Love. Inner vision and divine guidance are ours for the asking through prayer, meditation, or just sitting still. Open your spiritual eye and close your judgmental one. We can't say we love God and then cuss someone out. We can't say we're serving God and then not stand strong for justice. Our spiritual practice is irrelevant if we're just uttering, "Have a blessed day," but doing nothing to bring blessings to the people suffering all around us. So I'm grateful for this wisdom of the woods, and I'm hoping that some of us will take up John Randolph Price's 40-day abundance practice, hoping many of us will join on the lawn of the courthouse to stand strong for climate justice and action on October 18th, and hoping that all of us will remember to take time in the silence and stillness, knowing that our answers come easily and surely from on high. Let's go into prayer. I am amazed and astounded by the goodness that surrounds us always. As I remember looking out that window into the forest, leaving my mind behind and connecting with my soul, the realization that we are all one, that the beauty, the harmony, the diversity, the wholeness of God, of Spirit is everywhere present always. That we are one with it, cannot be separate from it, and therefore, as Wendy prayed earlier for us, we are one with each other. We can't be separate. Just like those mushrooms have mycelium that reach out and connect, there is an unseen network that connects all of us, one heart, one mind. And so my prayer today is that we not only recognize that oneness, but we practice it. We take time to be still. We pay attention to our thoughts. We feel our feelings. We move through them to recognize oneness as truth. To recognize that we must preserve Mother Earth, preserve goodness and opportunities, equal voting rights, and so on and so much more for all of us. Because when one of us thrives, all of us thrives. We're meant to have symbiotic relationships, not separate relationships. We are one in spirit, and we are invited to the table to sup, to take in, to digest all of the goodness that nature, that spirit has to offer us. A walk in the woods is a sure cure for anything that may be bothering us as we leave our minds behind and find our souls, because it's in the soul, it's in that open-hearted place that we know we are one, that life is good, that God is good, and that as we experience this universal reboot, something is emerging as we focus on what it is we want, as we focus on our true natures, as we answer our individual call for what is ours to do. This reboot ends up in a world that works far better for everyone. We are on the way to something better, something grander, something even more divine than what we're seeing. In gratitude to know this, in gratitude for my experience in the woods and for this opportunity to share it, I release this word into that aspect of the divine that stands ready and willing and wanting to respond. I know this prayer is heard and answered, and so we say together, and so it is. Amen. spiritual practice we call sacred giving, an opportunity to be conscious and grateful for all the good that is flowing to us and be willing to share a portion of it to the places we are spiritually fed. So I'm going to invite you to share the affirmation with me now. Graciously I give from a place of love, knowing that as I give, so do I richly receive. There are several ways to contribute to Center for Spiritual Living Rogue Valley so that we might continue our ministry and classes. You can go to our website, www.cslroguevalley.org, and hit the donate button. There's a donate button right on the Facebook page if that's how you're watching us, or you can mail a check, snail mail, to CSLRV, P.O. Box 1458, Medford, Oregon, 97501. And I want to thank you all for your continued financial support, and a special thanks to everyone who contributed to my recent birthday fundraiser for CSLRV on Facebook. We were able to reach our goal, and I'm so grateful for that. Announcements about some things coming up. We still have our ongoing Wednesday morning Zoom community connection call, 9 a.m. with practitioner Nancy Clay. That's a half hour of some spiritual practice and just sharing. You can sign up for our newsletter on our Facebook page under email, or send an email to cslroguevalley@gmail.com. Prayer requests are always accepted. You can submit them on our website. Don't forget that interfaith action on the lawn of Jackson County Courthouse. That is October 18th, Monday. I think the newsletter had the date wrong, but it is not this Monday, it's the 18th. It's a couple weeks away. And finally, this will be in the newsletter again this coming week, but we are going to be beginning a monthly community connection call directly after Sunday service once a month. This month in October, it will be the third Sunday on Zoom at 11:30, directly following the talk and the service, so that we can share our thoughts about the message, the music, and just connect with one another. And of course, stay tuned about any news about our meeting again in person. That will be in the works as well. So I think that's it for our announcements. I turn it over one more time to Anton and Laura for our closing song.
Your lamp and pass it on. Let it shine for everyone, so we all may know, and we all may see that we are one great family. Light your lamp and pass it on. Let it shine for everyone, so we all may know, and we all may see that we are one great family.
Thank you once again, Laura Berryhill and Anton Mizrag, for your beautiful music and reminders. Before we say goodbye, I want to recognize and acknowledge our Sunday crew. Our director this morning, Jason Rummel. Other members doing our camera work, slides, and so on are Connie Miner, Bill Miner, Ben Rummel, let's see, Tom Frederick, our sound engineer. Thank you to you all for your dedication and service to make this broadcast possible. And Vivian Lacey, who was manning our slides, and that was a big job this morning. Okay. So as we say goodbye, I would take to heart the words of Anton and Laura's song. May we all know and may we all see that we are one great family, whether we're talking moss, moose, mushrooms, Mother Earth herself, and of course us humans. We are one great family. Take care, my friends. Namaste. Blessings.